Hello and welcome back to No BS. Today we return to talking about the biggest streaming service in the country and probably the world. I'm of course talking about Netflix. Netflix of course has been under fire a lot recently, mostly pertaining to its new movie called Cuties. For those who don't know, Cuties got a little controversial because of some of the younger girls in the movie who were acting in very inappropriate ways, especially to most modern conservative sensibility. Now we've already talked and discussed that repeatedly. Essentially, it was making these girls a little too attractive, so to speak, and it was kind of leaning towards the further end of the spectrum as far as being romantically interested in certain kinds of people. Now, this is something that Netflix has pushed in a lot of different ways recently. Specifically, they've pushed a lot of alphabet stuff all over the years. They've had alphabet characters and they've had, lesbian, gay. They've had a lot of trans shows. They've had these new Queer Eye for the Straight Guy reboot. They've had also a lot of drag related shows, drag cartoons, drag competitions and stuff like that. So seeing them moving on to kids and making them these romantic desires for their viewers is definitely disturbing. And it kind of plays into that whole slippery slope. People say that's a fallacy, but there are a lot of people concerned that the further you push this sexuality stuff, the further down the line you're going to get to weirder stuff like kids, and people even talked about animals getting lovers and stuff like that. And that's really where it's actually turned now. I think Netflix is trying to prove them all right. This slippery slope wasn't something I've purported specifically, but seeing this new example and the way Netflix is brazenly putting this stuff in your face, it's certainly making you think it might be a thing. Because now Netflix has a new show where a guy falls in love with an octopus. That's right. He has a supposedly erotic relationship with this animal in the ocean, and it's really going further down that rabbit hole of now we're talking about bestiality. First it was underage kids, now it's bestiality. Where else is Netflix gonna go? This is super weird, super messed up, and kind of dark too. It's kind of hard to talk about. I wonder if I'll even be able to get monetized for this video, but I think we should talk about it anyway regardless. I'm doing this for your guys' information, for your help. So check this out. This says, the incredible tale of a man who formed an unlikely bond with an octopus. This is a CNN spin on the story, so we're getting the take from another left-wing outlet who's probably going to go along with this, just like they did with Cuties, just like they did with this other degenerate stuff on Netflix that they're trying to push. And I think it's worth noting, Craig Foster was diving bare-chested in bitterly cold waters off the southernmost tip of Africa when he saw her, an octopus hiding under a cloak of shells and stones. Enchanted, he began following the incredibly shy creature, trying to prove he wasn't a predator by staying very still in her presence. For weeks, she evaded him, hiding in her den, camouflaging herself, or pushing her liquid body into the nearest crack to escape. And then after 26 days of near obsessive wooing, she reached out and touched him. Now, this is already sounding romantic and weird and a little off-putting. I understand having an interest in nature, but from what we know already, since we already know there's an erotic side to this from what I've read, the wooing and the whole seduction thing, it's just seeming really off and strange. And it's like a propaganda push too, since this is an article from CNN. This is a documentary coming from Netflix right after they had this other controversy involving probably inappropriate love. So putting this all together is what really makes this story so awful. In the new Netflix documentary, My Octopus Teacher, this tender moment moves you in a way you never thought an octopus tentacle wrapped around a human hand could. Filmed in 2010, My Octopus Teacher chronicles the year Craig Foster spent cultivating a unique bond with an extraordinary creature. The nature documentary has received 8 nominations for the Jackson Wild Media Award and won Best Feature in the EarthX Film Festival. Now, we haven't gotten to the supposed romance in this yet. I think that might be implied, or it might be not as blatant as it is. CNN seems to be playing it down and playing this up as some kind of nature documentary. But here are my questions. So first of all, this was filmed in 2010. Why is Netflix coming out with this now? Why are they going out of their way to bring up this romance between a man and an octopus? The other thing I think of is this whole tentacle thing. This is another kind of fetish I've heard about. I've seen people do these romantic drawings and inappropriate stuff with tentacles on the octopus. So I'm starting to see where this is going more. Something about the tentacles is phallic and sexual and just kind of creepy the way they address it here. And the other thing it reminds me of is back to Cuties. This is right after Cuties, and Cuties was another thing that Netflix really went out of their way to bring to audiences. The thing about Cuties was it was a French film recorded in French that Netflix had to redub in order to bring to English audiences. So Netflix really had to go out of their way to redub the whole Cuties movie in English English, they had to hire all these actors, re-record the lines, hire another director for voiceovers, all this stuff, like really going out of their way to bring that to English audiences. And I would say that's similar to what's going on with this octopus doc, because like it says here, it was filmed 10 years ago. I'm not sure it's really relevant anymore. Maybe they just released it recently. I'm not sure how they're going with that, but it does seem like another stretch. Foster was able to capture intimate moments of this octopus' short life by spending up to 2 hours following her every single day for a year. If you gain the trust of that animal over a period of months, it will actually ignore you to a certain degree and carry on with its normal life and allow you to step inside its secret world, Foster tells CNN. We see her outwitting a shark by hitching a ride on its back, growing a new tentacle after surviving a shark attack, and finally wasting away after laying a clutch of eggs. The octopus showed me many behaviors that were completely new to science because the animal trusted me, he says. So it does sound interesting. You know, I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm not sure where this romantic angle comes into play, but it is there. It does seem like he's obsessed with the animal, like he's diving with it 2 hours a day, every day for a year. That's a long, long study right there. And, you know, I think it's just, you know, going along with the Netflix stuff, you're just kind of worried, and I'm creeped out by them, and I'm suspect. And I know it's done independently of Netflix, but the fact that they're backing it, it just shows a lot too. It shows that it goes along with where they're going. You know, they back certain projects and people, they bring them to light. Like, for example, how they back a lot of Democrats like Obama's, AOC, you know, they hire them and make documentaries about them for certain reasons. And I think that's why they purchase documentaries like this too. It's not like you're in a Jeep and arrive upon a hunting scene on land, he explains. In the water, it's intimate. When she chooses to let you into her world, it's a very, very special moment of not just being accepted, but that your presence to her also feels natural, like you belong in the space with her. Foster has spent the last 10 years diving in a kelp forest in the Atlantic Ocean off the west coast of South Africa, where water temperatures can drop as low as 8 degrees Celsius. Known as the Cape of Storms, he describes this patch of ocean as the most treacherous coast in the world. While some swimmers fear sharks or other predators, Foster says the greatest threat to his life being thrown onto a rock by a big wave. So I'm seeing more like, you know, romantic. He's calling it a her. You know, he probably has a name for it. I don't know if they say that yet, but he's saying it's intimate. She chooses to let you in. It just seems like he's really flirting with it and like enticing the octopus, trying to, you know, flirt basically. It's like you could see where it's going. The healing power of the ocean. Foster began this daily diving regimen as a way of dealing with the depression that had left him raw and disconnected. I was struggling. My only way to heal felt like I needed to be in the ocean, my go-to happy place as a child. Immersing himself in this underwater world has calmed his mind, he says. Over the years, other animals have reached out to make contact, including otters, whales, cuttlefish, and even sharks. They have chosen to come to me and make that contact, showing a moment of trust and vulnerability, he says. Every time it's breathtaking and healing, but nothing has compared to his once-in-a-lifetime bond with an octopus, he says. Foster says the greatest lesson she taught him is that humans are part of the natural world around us and not simply visitors. Your own role and place in the natural world is singularity, the most precious gift we have been given. So I think I could see where it's going. They don't really play up the romance here. I believe that's more subtle in the documentary, but the points here are, okay, this is some interesting information. He was very depressed. So that's a classic liberal move, just kind of bringing your problems to the forefront. They always talk about their mental issues and their, you know, depression or anxiety, or, you know, possibly like they're transitioning or doing something more further, but they're always talking about their mental health and they have issues with it. That's a classic liberal buzzword. That's something to watch out for. That's a red flag. And the fact that he was struggling and then he went into the ocean, it kind of reminds me of people that are just like, you know, they turn to animals because they can't get in with humans. They don't have friends or family or a partner. So they turn to animals because animals really don't have the same kind of choice sometimes. Now, granted, this guy is, you know, he's going with wild animals. He's definitely, you know, courting them and befriending them in their environment. But most cases, it's like a cat lady. He reminds me of a cat lady who has like 10 cats in their house and just pours their life and attention into them because they don't have any human friends. They have depression. They have issues. They can't handle humans. And I think that's what's going on with this guy. Like, he reaches out to animals more. It's just a more extreme and more interesting premise. You know, it's like, yeah, we're not going to make a documentary about some cat lady or even some person who might live on a farm with some pigs or horses and that's their whole life. They don't have any other companionship. Like, that's just not as interesting. This guy was underwater. He had the cameras and the equipment. He filmed it with this octopus that looks very interesting. And the fact that he also calls it a her all the time, that's another kind of red flag to me. I know that these animals do have gender, but they're supposed to be like gender fluid or something on the left, but apparently it matters. And this guy, he's just courting her. He's intimate. He's in their space. You know, it's just like a lot of these buzzwords that are showing a bad sign that, to me, it's a little messed up. And if it really does get as erotic as they mention, as I've seen in other reports about this doc, it's definitely troubling. It doesn't seem too bad so far. It just seems like another animal thing. But I think in light of where Netflix has been recently, showing where they've gone with things like Cuties and with their other projects, their Obama documentaries and AOC, this definitely falls in line with that bad trend. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Tell me what you think about Netflix, about their recent track record, them supporting liberal propaganda, them pulling up this octopus thing, and whether or not it's going to get as romantic as they claim. Also, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and you could check out our Facebook page too, facebook.com/nobullshitvideos. We post there regularly, sometimes some bonus content. So if you're on Facebook, check that out. And thanks for your time. Thanks for watching again. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.